Hello, my name's Gordon Rutter. Welcome to my cabinet of curiosities. What I thought we'd have a look at here is a plague doctor's mask. I'm sure you've all seen this sort of thing, you're very familiar with it, but how much of the history do we actually know? Well, this particular design of mask was invented by Charles Delorme in Naples in 1630. It had glass lenses to act as protection so that nothing could get through to the eyes, and one of the key components of it was the actual beak itself. The beak was usually stuffed with flowers, with herbs, spices, even vinegar sponges, anything that would give a smell, because the idea was that the plague of the time was spread by bad air, by miasma, and anything that would stop you breathing that bad air in is something that would keep you alive. So this was completely stuffed. You've got the air holes here, so basically the air was filtered through this scented loveliness, unless you were using the vinegar, of course. As well as the plague doctor's hat, a plague doctor would wear a wide-brimmed hat to denote the fact that they actually were a doctor. They would have a cane, and the cane would be pretty important. It would help them to avoid touching things, so they could just point, they could move, just a item of safety as well. And the other thing that they would have in their repertoire is a long coat, either wax or leather, and usually all of these things were also impregnated with the scent of flowers, all these good smelling things as well, again to keep the smell of the bad air and the plague away. What would happen was the plague doctor would go in and, using his coat as protection and the mask as protection, he would use the cane, prod victims, ask them to lift up their arms to see the bubules underneath their armpits to actually check for plague. So he'd be checking to see if these victims actually had the plague. He would be diagnosing them. Where they died, he would be confirming the death. He would even cause autopsies, and he would also remove the dead bodies as well. So he did quite a lot of different things. Consequently, the plague doctors were associated with death, and basically they caused a lot of fear when they were seen, because basically when you saw somebody wearing one of these approaching you, what you knew is plague was in the area, so your life was at risk. So this was a sort of bad omen, if you like. Nowadays we only see them mostly, I guess, in Venice during the festival, during the masked festival that they hold there. Those of you who've seen the movie Eyes Wide Shut, I'm sorry for you, but if you've seen it, you'll have seen masks like this in there. This particular mask is made of papier-mâché and was purchased at one of the shops that actually made the masks for that particular Stanley Kubrick movie. All of this get-up, the hat, the coat, the cane and the mask, did actually have some benefits. It did help the doctors survive a little bit, because it wasn't bad air, it wasn't miasma that was spreading the plague, it was actually fleas. It was rats which were infected with fleas, and the fleas themselves were infected with plague. But all of this heavy costuming, all of this covering, they wore gauntlets as well, all of this covering stopped the rats and the fleas getting to the plague doctor and biting them, which stopped them being infected. Consequently, they weren't bitten as often, therefore they didn't develop the plague as often as you might expect. Obviously some plague doctors did get infected and did eventually die of the plague, but there was a modicum of protection with the clothing and various paraphernalia that they were wearing. So that's the plague doctor's mask. Thank you very much.